This video is brought to you by Rockler Woodworking and Hardware. Create with confidence. Believe it or not, this is actually a dog bed. A Murphy dog bed. This is also a dog bed of a dog character I created named Murphy. Any questions? So Rockler recently asked me if I'd be interested in trying out their Murphy bed hardware. They make hardware for human-sized beds too, by the way. Anyhow, when they asked, they mentioned hardware for dog beds, and I thought that might be a cool challenge. So here we are. When I started thinking about a design, I kept imagining a person who would have a Murphy dog bed, or why I would want one. And the obvious answer that kept popping into my head was somebody who wants to take advantage of space, and who wants to kind of hide it in plain sight. So that was my goal with this piece, to make it a dog bed that could sit pretty much anywhere in your house, serve a couple of functions, and not stick out like a sore thumb. So far in all the shots, all I've been doing is roughly breaking down the plywood that I'm going to use for this project. It's 3/4 inch Baltic birch. The next morning, I got started really putting things together. I wanted to tackle the project one piece at a time. That said, it made sense to batch cut some of the pieces to ensure that they were all the same size. So I started at the table saw, ripping and cross-cutting most of my pieces to their finished dimensions. I should also mention that the dog bed hardware comes with instructions for building the basic box that houses everything. It also comes with a mattress that perfectly fits. Anyhow, so I'm building the box exactly as it says to in the instructions, and then basing the rest of the design off of that. So after I had my pieces cut, I started off by marking out where to place the mounting brackets. This was actually the one and only place that I had a little trouble. Reason being, I probably shouldn't have used plywood for the box. To mount the brackets, you screw them into these threaded inserts. Well, for me, threaded inserts and plywood don't really seem to like each other. So what I ended up doing was enlarging the holes and then gluing the inserts in. And this worked fine. That said, if you just don't use plywood, you can skip this step. Once the mounting brackets are in, you can go ahead and assemble the box. You guys know I normally like to build my boxes out of miter-edged pieces, but for this one, I went ahead and did butt joints that are glued and screwed together. So with the box built, I attached the pistons to the frame. Then I attached the frame and pistons to the mounting bracket, and then screwed the door to the frame. And then the only thing left to do was attach the legs to the frame. So you're going to put that right in there. Now hold it tight because it's going to want to twist. Ready? Did you get it? I know it kind of seems like I glanced over how to mount the hardware, but the kit comes with really easy to follow instructions, and honestly, there's just not that much to it. It's so easy, a 4.5-year-old could do it. It's a video. Cheese.
How about say Alakazam? Say Alakazam.
With the dog bed portion out of the way, the last thing I wanted to get done was to assemble the other box, the one for the drawers, before I called it a night. It was already getting pretty late, so I decided to do this in fast motion, at 4K, downscaled to 1080p. By the way, if this is your first time to my channel, welcome. And if you like what you're seeing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thanks. The next morning, I put together the drawers. I've already shown myself installing drawers in a few other videos, so I didn't bother filming it again here. But after the drawer boxes were installed, I started cutting some pieces for the drawer faces. That's what you see me doing here. For the handles, I'm going to use the same style that I used on the dresser that I made about a year ago. I got a little carried away with some of my settings, so if you look at the drawer face from the side, it's a little wonky looking. But from the front, or any angle when it's closed, it's good. Plus, I don't really consider this piece fine woodworking, so I can live with it. After I attached the drawer faces, I started in on the end cap pieces. The reason I'm ripping these pieces with 45 degree is because they're going to have triangular shelves. And this way the front of the shelf and the edge of the vertical piece will end up with a continuous surface. Next, I cut them to length and assembled them. The only trick is that since I'm using butt joints, I had to make one of the pieces 3/4 of an inch wider than the other. To cut the shelves, I used my Rockler table saw crosscut sled. Once I figured out how big the triangles needed to be, I cut out some square blanks, set the fence to 45 degrees, and then used the flip stop so that I could cut out a piece, flip the whole thing over, and then cut out the second piece. Then I installed the shelves. I wanted to throw a little color on this piece, so I used the same color scheme that I used on the simpler wall organizer hanging thing. I think I'm going to make these the official, unofficial Four Eyes colors. And while I'm painting, I'd like to take a minute to officially thank my Patreon members. New to the list this month are Nathan Hawes, David Metz, Mikey the Maker, Michelle Gonzalez, Anatoly Ayali, Christopher Abisla, Brian Baca, Keith Ray, Carlos Suenca, Jason Sismilich, Patrick Klein, Love and Renovations, Thomas Guerrero, and Dave Baker. I can't tell you how much it means to me to have your support. I'm tickled pink, or at least some sort of salmon-y color. If you want to find out more about how you can support the show too, and pick up some cool gifts like a t-shirt, check out my Patreon page. And as always, no pressure. Special thanks to Rockler for sponsoring this video and for sending out the Murphy bed hardware to try. It, along with many of the other Rockler tools that I used in this project, are linked below. So make sure to check them out. See you next time.